All right, here we go. So, welcome, folks. Today's topic is mental health in the Black community. I have two great guests from different perspectives. So, we're going to have a good conversation, talk about things that transpire in our community that may not be talked about or not emphasized enough. So, we'll start off with a quick disclaimer because I do this on my webinars. This is not intended to be medical advice or diagnose any psychological disorder. If you need any kind of mental health treatment, please see a licensed practitioner. And the beauty is we have one on here. So, if you do need some, hit him up. All right. Okay, so let's just go over our panel. We got two guests, and we had two other guests who weren't able to make it. So I'll be kind of a panelist, but I'm gonna be more of a moderator. So we'll go, Devin, just introduce yourself, what you do, and then Marcus, you introduce yourself afterwards.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Devin Pittman. I am a content creator. I make beautiful things, uh, help run a page with the strong, and lead videographer on there, and as well as I work with a couple artists. And yeah,
All right, thank you, sir. Marcus, how about yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Marcus Folks. I am a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida. I'm currently a doctoral candidate at the University of Cumberland, studying in-depth advanced counseling, counselor education, and supervision. And I'm just happy to be here.
All right, thank both of you. I appreciate you coming out. And those who may or may not know me, even though it's my platform, I'm Nicholas Davenport. My background is in mental health originally. Me and Marcus went to the great Bethune-Cookman University together for undergrad. But if you follow me, you know I ventured more into the performance side of things with my athletes, military, businesses, etc. So we're here to have three different perspectives, but probably find some common ground, of course, too. So yeah, let's get into it. So before we start, I wanted to define some terms. So health, we talk about mental health, health, wellness, all these get interrelated. So typically health is started as the absence of injury or disease. So that's a very general term. Wellness is more so how to achieve health. So what are you doing in your daily life, your activities, your behaviors? Now, when it comes to mental health, I put two definitions only because the first one that's not bolded is more of the general definition as a person's condition as regards to their psychological and emotional well-being. But I feel that doesn't give a good enough perception. So the second definition I like because it goes deeper. So it says state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities and ability to cope with normal stresses of life, work productively, and is able to contribute to his or her community. And I like that definition because it goes broader than just am I sick, am I healthy? It goes deeper to how am I able to handle the dynamics of life, which is always up and down. So that's why I like that one. So with that being said, those terms just general, just want to get that out of the way. Let's get into the topics. So how this is going to flow, I'm gonna go over the topic real quick, and I'll have Marcus and Devin go over what they feel about it, and it'll be like a conversation. And I'll put my 2 cents if I have anything to say, and we're just gonna let it flow. All right, so this one's direct personal, nothing big other than what you experience. So I have experienced issues with my mental health. If you have, which I'm sure you both have, let's see it. So who wants to go first?
I'll go first. So I have experienced my own mental health issues, maybe not to the extent that it hinders any of my daily functioning. However, if you just think about it, we all experience our own mental health issues daily in some type of way. It could be acute or it could be chronic. For me myself, daily life stressors. Being a doctoral candidate, doing dissertation, that's a stressor. Being program director at a nonprofit organization, that can have a lot of stress, dealing with youth, adolescents, or me personally, working with individuals who have been traumatized. I experienced a lot of, you know, second trauma, second trauma, vicarious trauma, secondary trauma due to the individuals I'm working with. So I handle that. I do my coping skills. I practice what I preach, so I follow everything that I've taught individuals or I have throughout my career. Coping skills, identifying, triggers and the traumas, and, being able to move forward from that, being able to be resilient. So yeah.
All right, thank you. That's good. And it's great to see, like you said, you practice what you preach. So that's big because one thing to dish it, but you have to take it too. So that shows that you're really about what you do. All right, DP, what you got?
yeah. I've definitely experienced mental health issues. I'm actually on the opposite spectrum of Marcus, so I actually I went to prison for 6.5. So dealing with that and going in at a young age, at the age of 18, coming out at 4, definitely saw a bunch of crazy things. Prior to that, uh, not so much physical abuse, but a lot of mental abuse, a lot of neglect, I would say, in the household. So a lot of just having to raise myself and have to figure things out. So it got lost along the way. Um, the whole thing, terrible mother, uh, basically disappeared, left his family. So having to go through that and then actually uh, having to go to the doctor and being diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression, and put on medication, having to actually take medication, then having to get myself off of the medication because I didn't feel like it was helping me. I thought it was hindering me. So definitely happened.
Yeah. So that's why I'm glad I could get both of you because, like you said, on the other side of the spectrum is one thing being a practitioner, but then someone who deals with it not just at a day-to-day level, but also, like you say, diagnosed. There's a lot of, like, I did a mental health myths one a few weeks ago, and you saw that one, and like there's a lot. We won't get deep into that, but there's a lot of stigmas with, and that's the next slide, with how we perceive mental health in the Black community specifically, let alone America. And having diagnosed, I'm sure that had to be tough when people don't fully get what you're going through and you trying to just live a daily life on top of the stuff that comes with being a Black man, I'm sure, Marcus, you probably see stuff like that with clients, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess that's a perfect segue because the next topic is, why do you think mental health is seen as a stigma in the Black community? So those who are watching, I put a few statistics. I'll just go through them real quick. So when it comes to depression, one of the most generalized mental illnesses, 63%, according to a poll done by a poll on scholar.com, showed that 63% of the people said weakness was the sign, or the consequence of depression was weakness, or it was a choice, which is very misleading because it isn't. Obviously, there's things we can deal with, but like Mark said, coping strategies, but you can't always control the reactivity from a brain level, chemical level, from emotional level, from environmental level. So there's so many factors, not a one size fits all. We talk about mistrust of medical practitioners when it comes to poverty. While obviously not all Black people are poor, even though some people make this stupid, ignorant statement of our people, but if you are under poverty, you're 2 times more likely to report psychological disorder than a Black person who is 2 times over the poverty line. So there is a rate. And also suicide. White teenagers tend to be more successful, but it's increasing rate amongst Blacks, as well as they're more likely to attempt 9.8% to 6.1. So there's definitely disparities. So I guess whoever wants to start, I guess Devin, you start this one since Mark's got the first one. Why do you think that stigma with these different demographic or different stats in our demographic? Why do you think that happens?
Well, I think in the Black community, especially for men, the perception, you have to be strong all the time, right? So if someone hears that you have mental health, automatically they look at you like, there's something wrong with you. And I don't think, so no one wants to be outcasted. So I think that that plays a part, as well as just I don't think a lot of Black people understand that we're actually sick. Like, I think everybody is there. I think everyone should be able to speak to somebody and be able to get, because we've gone through a lot of shit through from slavery to Jim Crow to the new Jim Crow era that we're in right now that Michelle Alexander speaks on, where like you can't really see the blatant racism that's there. You can't call it out, but you know it's there. But I don't think a lot of people understand that they have some shit going on. But when it says the reports of it being a choice, I don't know, man. I kind of disagree, only because like coming from the Department of Corrections, coming from the youth and shit, going through the adult system, going through medium and max facilities, being locked down in confinement for months at a time. I remember one specific time where the guy was banging on the door and he wanted to get out, but you can't get out if you're fine. You're in there 24 hours. Come out 3 times a week for maybe 2 minutes to take a shower, and then you're right back in stuff. So I remember hearing it, and I felt that. I had a full-blown anxiety attack, but there's nothing I could do about it. There's nobody who cares. I'm not coming out of this room. So what can I do except, man. So like I had to deal with that. I had to deal with that I can't sleep. Now these are things that I brought upon myself, but that we'll talk about that later side. Like I had to figure this shit out. I had no choice. So like well, there is a choice. I could have stayed and I could have allowed it to get me to abuse from child. I could have allowed shit, but like I knew ultimately that like this isn't me, and I have to do better. I wanted more for myself. So and I think that has to do with the stigma as well, because I didn't want to be looked at as like this crazy black, this crazy nigga.
Oh yeah, because like I said, with the choice part, that's just a perception. It's like they think it's a choice. That's why I say it's so misleading how people just assume you did something wrong, you messed up, or you put yourself in a position. That's where I guess you say the stigma. They're thinking that's what it is. Like that isn't what it is, but that's what 63% of our people are reporting. And it's like that's just the start. If they don't even think there's a problem, how could anyone get better? So I guess Marcus, what you think?
So a lot of these statistics look very familiar to me because I'm currently, like I said, I'm in my dissertation process. And my funny thing is my dissertation is on the stigma and perception against mental illness in the African American community. And one thing I want to hit on, and I'm probably going to hit on this throughout every single last slide, is trauma. Why? Because transgenerational, intergenerational trauma is basically it can be epigenetics, like it can be passed down through the womb on out, but it's vicarious trauma that individuals, in particular some African Americans, don't know that's actually happening to them, and they're passing it down from mom to daughter or from dad to son without even knowing. And I say that to lead into basically, let's be honest, black people don't all but some black people don't believe in mental health. The stigma comes from slave trade era, where social economic statuses, society is just is society wasn't built for our favor, right? So it's seen as as African Americans or as black people, we have to be strong, right? We have to be strong, we have to be resilient, we have to go through these trials and tribulations and not show any signs of weaknesses, right? So some black people see mental illness as a sign of weakness. They're afraid from personal stigma and public stigma. And when I say personal stigma and public stigma, it's their own stigma against themselves, and the public stigma, the stigma of what they think other people is going to say about them, i.e., oh, this person is diagnosed with depression, so they're crazy. Or this person is diagnosed with panic disorder, so they're crazy. This person has attempted suicide, so they're crazy. And we know how family dynamics go. We know how the black family, the atomic family, the non-traditional family goes, right? So we, as some black families, we don't want to have our family embarrassed by the outside people looking in. We want to keep up. Some of us want to keep up with the Joneses. Some of us want to sit on our high stool. The first the reports of depression being a sign of weakness or a choice, that statistic is actually in my dissertation, because a lot of individuals think, oh, this person is depressed, or he wants attention, he wants to, or she wants to, they can get out of it without doing anything. They can get out of it, but they don't know that the physiological makeup of our brain cause us to be in that depressed state. And I want to disclaimer, there's a difference between depressed mood and clinical depression, right? So we all experience a depressed mood at one point in time where we're sad, we're feeling down and low, but there's really clinical depression where we shut down our functioning. It hinders our functioning, work, social life. You know, we forget all ADLs, hygiene. We don't do anything, and that's clinical depression. We can't control that due to the physiological makeup of our brain and our disorder. So stigma for in the Black community has been ingrained even before we even knew it, because it's been passed down from generation to generation. It didn't start with us, you know. It started from in a theory, critical race theory. It's basically based on racism is based on every aspect um of our life, right? So if you think about, 400 years of slavery, and we just kept some of that, throughout, generation to generation. And like I mentioned, I mentioned earlier, it's not made up for us. So some of that just stayed with us and it's passed down from generation to generation unknowingly.
That's both of y'all really went in, because when you said stuff about trauma, I guess it's maybe a question, maybe both of y'all can answer it. It doesn't necessarily have to be a professional opinion, but you mentioned trauma. It makes me think of like people always, not always, but I think people always associate trauma with more general. Like if you look at a movie, you say I was traumatized. I think it comes in two ways on movies. It's either like a rape situation or a war situation.
Hmm.
And I think it paints a picture of trauma ain't that serious if it ain't those two. You know what I mean? Now, this is my opinion. Like I said, y'all both can chime in what you think. But when you say trauma, I think like in my personal life, like you could say a serious loss, not necessarily death, but say someone who you're real close to, like a best friend, that for some reason they switch sides on you, they backstabbed you, conniving, whatever it may be. Or it could be even something smaller and you just don't talk no more for some, that could be severe to you. And I feel like if it don't look like a rape, which I'm not discrediting, obviously there's levels to it, but obviously that's not the only way trauma can look, is rape or a wounded soldier in war, which obviously that I'm not taking away from any of those, but I feel it makes the other traumas seem less significant. So I don't know if what y'all think on that.
Well, I think just really just being black, bro. Like being a black man is traumatizing in itself. Like I'm one of the statistics that 1 in 3 black. So there's 3 black men on here. 1 in 3 went to prison. Like this is fact, right?
Dang,
So
that's real.
I mean, this is fact. Then that's not counting how many are on probation. Then that's not counting just walking down the street and having a hoodie on and thinking about, man, I remember in 2015, bro, waking up out of my sleep because I'm thinking about Tamir Rice. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking about Philando Castile. I'm thinking about Eric Garner. I'm thinking about all these people, just being a black man in South Florida, in Broward County. You know what I mean? So it's like having to be aware of your surroundings and almost having to put on this put on this other person, when you get around white people, so you don't look so aggressive. So you
That's real though, because it's like
Yeah.
so then you get home and it's like I get around and like this is how I'm really talk, man. Like this is me, but I have to, so it's having to switch these people and carry and be these different people. It almost like fucks with you. That's kind of like traumatic, having to learn that growing up. Like I grew up in Cold Springs, and it's no projects in Cold Springs. My father took care of me. You know what I'm saying? He was there financially. We had all this shit. Now maybe on the other stuff, but we always had lights on and stuff. And then these kids calling me an Oreo. I said, what the hell is an Oreo? I don't know what this shit is, right? So then they're like, oh, you black on the outside, white on the inside. I say, well, why is that? Because I know how to articulate myself. I know how to speak. I wasn't walking around, like how they saw on TV the black people. So then going forward, I'm like, okay, this is what black is. I got to be the craziest, right? So
this is very real. I feel this 100%. But guess for the sake of time, we'll move on to the next side, because basically a lot of what we're getting into is on the next one. So we'll move on and we'll circle back either way. So we kind of touched on this a tad bit. Do you think the history of Black Americans in America has contributed to the lack of emphasis on mental health awareness? So Marcus and Devin both touched on things like slavery, Jim Crow. So this is on here. So I have a few statistics. So those who are not familiar with Tuskegee experiment at home, this is when from about the late 1940s to the 1970s that they left in Tuskegee, Alabama, a neighborhood of Black men untreated from syphilis to see the effects. So basically they were human guinea pigs. And this was a real history. This is not a movie. This really happened for 30 years, 3 decades. These men were getting an illness that we would definitely nowadays be disgusted with. So they were letting them go without treatment or using other treatments to see how it played out. But basically saying, let's see how this works out in them so we can use it for the white race so we can be okay. And that really happened. This ain't no dramatization. That was Tuskegee experiment. Slavery, I don't think anyone in America needs to be defined on what that was, but roughly from the 1600s to 1865, Black people were not free in this country. They were slaves. And then when they were free, finger quotes, it went to the Jim Crow immediately, meaning systems were put in place to not change. Because I'm a former history major. Before me and Marcus met, I was psych, but before that was history. So I'm big on this. So 1865 was freedom of slaves by Abraham Lincoln. It went right into Jim Crow, which was systems, laws made to keep the same status quo. Oh, we can't own them no more? Okay, let's make laws so they have to work for us for basically nothing. And they live in the same communities. They can't come up. And then after that kind of subsided into the late 1960s, mind you, this was only 50 years ago. Our parents was allowed during this. Mass incarceration goes up. So they find ways, okay, they're free to vote. They're free to walk around in white neighborhoods, but let's make crimes illegal for things that aren't that serious to make them get locked up. So I'm gonna read these statistics because I think it's important to look at this because I've had arguments or debates with non-Black and white people on the disparities, and they'll argue like, well, the statistics show this amount is similar. True, but you have to understand stats, right? Now, on here it says mass incarceration. Blacks are 33% of the prison population, while whites are 30%. So if you don't know statistics, you're like, it's the same. But that's why I put in parentheses, look how much population Black people are in the US, 12%, while whites are 60, Hispanic are 16. So if you see it from a statistical standpoint, that's way more because if only 12%, that means more of our people are behind bars, even though we only represent such a small fraction of the population. So you got to put it on this lens to really get the disparity in that. Because if you just look at it as 30 and 33 are right next to each other, same. So white people get just as bad. You can't say that when it's only 60% of you or them and 12% of us. So, and the last one I'll touch on, you guys can put your 2 cents. Graduation. I only put a few of these. There's so much in this too, but I didn't want to go too deep. College. We're the highest that are not enrolled. And granted, college, I'm not saying that's the only way, because obviously everyone has a different way to make it. But if you look at it from just college standpoint, 44.6%. And the next lowest percent is 35. And the 2 lowest is Asian and white at 26%. So almost double less than us, not enrolled. So not saying this is the only way to go, but if you look at people's careers, this is what usually it looks like college educated, but definitely there's other ways. So yeah, that's a lot to unpack. Y'all touched on a little bit. So your thoughts, how does this contribute to mental health in our community?
I mean, I can start since Devin started the previous slide. Listen, systems were put in place to be against us. Let's talk about systematic oppression, right? Redlining in schools, as many denials as African Americans were getting, where we tried to apply to Ivy League institutions, things of that nature. The Tuskegee experiment. I mean, currently look at the current nature we're in today with the COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of African Americans, they don't want to get a vaccine because they don't want to seem as a test experience because the vaccine was not, thoroughly tested. Things of that nature. And I mentioned on the transatlantic slave trade, my dissertation is dealing with slavery. We're still passing that down from generation to generation. We're still, if you look, and if some people stop, think, and just think how we're living today, we're still living through all of these eras. Devin mentioned the new Jim Crow era. We're living through that because of the systems that are in place to be against us. For example, look at loans for houses. Look at white people or European American people. They can get approved for a certain amount of money or get approved from a HOA committee, and then if a Black person have the same educational background, the same down payment, the same credit score, they see that Black indicator and they be like, they automatically think, oh, they're ghetto or something of that nature to prevent us from, living pretty much. And you kind of see it through job applications and things of that nature, through employment, through like education, things of that nature. So definitely. And me knowing that my white counterparts have the same education and they have that one up on me, or they have that privilege. Let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it real. They have that privilege that we do not have. That can cause us to have mental health issues within ourselves. Imposter syndrome. Am I good enough? What am I doing? I cannot control the color of my skin. What am I doing that's wrong? How can I fix this? How can I change this? Those constant thoughts, those cognitive distortions, those, the maladaptive thinking, that can cause me to go into like to have a mental health break. That can cause me, if I continue to resonate on those things like that. So yes, so absolutely.
Um, let's even take it back even further. The first slaves touched down, like he talked about transatlantic slave trade. It was like what, like 1619 or something, right? And then you have Declaration of Independence was signed, but in this it talks about us being 3/5 of a man. 3/5. I'm not. It take all these white boys. It take 5 white boys or you know what I mean? Like it take 5 of me to make one white boy. Like, come on, or whatever. So going from that, and then like knowing, like you talking about the redlining of neighborhoods, like having the same criteria, and there's plenty of videos on it, having the same criteria. I just watched one where they just switched up the pictures in the house. That's all they did, and they had the same person come through, and they were like, "Oh yeah, 500,000 more." They appraised the house for. So it's like when you know, and then you have the welfare when they introduce welfare into the black community, right? So then you take the black man out of the household, and you have the the government's taking care of the children, taking care of the mother and the children, and that rabbit hole is deep. That gets really deep,
Man, I'm gonna tell you, redline, for those who don't know redlining, because believe it or not, we know it, and that kind of plays into what we're talking about. I've had a conversation with a white friend who didn't know what it was. And this person has a PhD, they're very educated, so they're not like dumb or anything, but she didn't have to go through it. So basically, for those who may not know, who may be watching, is when they map out regions and specifically make territories in the district that can literally be a mile away. But since the lines, literally they drew out red lines on the maps to say, if you live in this district, you automatically are funded differently. And we don't got to paint a picture, is the black districts. So they got funded. So I go to school. So let's say me and Devin from South Florida. I know Mark's from Duval, but South Florida, let's say Broward County is a huge county. Let's say Deerfield and Pompano. They're not even a mile away. They're right there. If I live on this side, my school is right across from yours, but you get the tax breaks so you can have art programs, swim team, lacrosse, whatever, while we can barely get books from this decade. And this sounds like a horror movie. That's why that show, y'all seen that show, Them? I don't care, black, white, Spanish, watch that show because it's horror, but it's sad how close the horror is dramatized, obviously, for the movie effect or show effect, but it's almost scarier, the racism part. I'm more scared of the racism than the ghosts. You feel me? So these are real things. They ain't making. These are two educated brothers. They are not lying to you. And if you already believe in mental muscle, what I got going, you know I ain't gonna bring on no food. So this is real.
This is that new Jim Crow mass incarceration in Asian colored mindset. You can't really define, like you can't, because it's free. We just have Barack Obama as president. We have all these black people doing all these great things. Why are you why are you depressed? Why are you down? Why can't you just pick yourself up by the bootstraps and go make some shit happen? Right? But we know there's an underlying shit that you're like, man, something it ain't right. Like, I know I'm doing everything right. I know I meet all the criteria for this, but something. And if you call it out, then it's, oh, you're trying to use the race card type of shit, right? That gets thrown at you. And just work harder. So then we get told we have to work 10 times harder to be just as good as, our white counterparts, right? So we're constantly grinding. And even still, like, you look and you're like, damn, man, I'm doing all this work. And it's not, you can't call it out. It's there. So then that's where you're like, man, am I crazy? Am I doing this shit? Like, maybe I'm not. Like, maybe, so then that's when you get down on yourself. And I can see, especially like for someone on my side who comes from, the recidivism rate is 85% that you're going to end up back in prison within 3 years. They got this shit down to a T. They know because you're coming out and you have no life skills. You don't know how to handle people. You can't get a job. You can get a job, but it's doing the most menial tasks that you won't be able to afford a lifestyle for yourself. Then don't have children. Then that's the worst thing. Don't have a wife or something that you have to take care of. So now, as a man, and it's like, oh, you can't. You don't feel like a real man. So then it's like that's when you start getting down, and there's nobody that you can talk to, because if I talk to my brother, he's like, man, fool, because nobody cares about men. Nobody cares about men. If you're not providing, like, what's the thing Chris Rock say? Like, they don't care about women and children.
Men only love, everyone's unconditional, but men only love the condition that they provide. That's what Chris Rock said. I remember that. That was like 10 years ago or something. He said that. And I was in college. I didn't resonate that much because I was still a kid, but now I get it. I got a daughter, I get it.
What are you? What you doing out here?
So I guess we'll save a little bit of that because that slide that we specifically talked about that. So these are great segues. You guys are killing it. So we'll go forward to the next one. So this one, I added it. My friend told me, think about parenting. I'm like, how did I think about this? So this kind of goes into all we've been leading up to. So I'll just segue. How do you feel parenting in the Black community has impacted our youth? And I spelled our wrong, AR, sorry, but our youth. So I'll read some of the statistics. You can see 66% of Black households were a single parent compared to the Latino, Asian, and white, which are almost half, even triple less. That plays a factor. When we talked about disorders, ADHD, that's just one, obviously, but it's very prominent in education at the grade school level. It's typically underdiagnosed in our community. There's so many reasons, but one of the biggest ones I put is it's often seen as defiance. Oh, they're just acting up. Oh, they just have problems at home versus like, no, something in their brain is a little unaligned from their classmates. Maybe I should look deeper versus, and that's a whole nother burden that teachers should not be like, not necessarily diagnosed, because obviously you can't diagnose, but they should be making the call of, should Johnny go get tested versus Billy, because they don't know that. They're not like Mark, he's trained for that. I started it, but I still can't even, because that's a legal one, but they're not trained for that. Emphasis on goal in sport and entertainment. And now this seems backwards, me saying this, since this helped me get to college, and Devin, former athlete too. So it's like, I'm not saying you can't push that, but there's definitely disparities in, make it to the NFL versus go be a doctor, lawyer, or dentist, or a entrepreneur, whatever, because it's only 1% make it pro, and that's all pros. That's for every sport. So if we break it down even sport-wise, that percentage is even lower. Football probably has the highest because there's 56 people on the team. But you go to basketball, that 1% turns to 0.7. You go to like baseball, that's going to 0.4. You go to football, it's like 0.8. So we're putting our lives on that. And the last part, looking at adolescents as people. I have a 6-year-old, almost 7-year-old daughter. And since I'm in the field, I understand a little better, but still I got learning to do. But a lot of times we go on our kids, and we all may have stories of, stop adding up. When you might have been depressed or sad, but since you're 7, you can't be that. Because what they say, you ain't got no bills. So it's like, okay, I don't pay rent, but I'm not allowed to have feelings. So I'm about to go on my own rant, but I'm gonna let y'all go.
I can start. I think parenting in the Black community, we can do a lot better. We can do a lot, a whole lot. There's the single parent household thing, and this is a huge thing for me, because I come up with I come up in a blended family, and I have a stepmother. She had children. My father, he brought children into the relationship, um, and it was very wild, man. And there wasn't a lot of we were provided for in the way of always had lights, always had food. When it came time for football, I had cleats, I had all the stuff that I needed. Every practice, um, never missed a game. Outside of that, right, it's non-existent. You know what I'm saying? They're coming home and going straight to the room. Nobody's asking how's your day, what happened to you today. Nobody, they don't know about me getting stopped by the police and getting laid down on the ground at gunpoint. They ain't asked me about that. So when I'm coming home and I'm like, I'm freaking out, and they just think I'm acting out, but they don't know, I'm going to school, and uh, this teacher is harassing me, literally harassing me every day, making me sit underneath her desk and poking me with the ruler. Nobody's doing anything about this shit. I'm the one that's acting out, right? So now it's like, um, uh, there's a lot of. I don't think we. I think we think if we put name brand clothes on our kids and take pictures with them nowadays, that we think that's parenting. And as far as like talking to the children, I don't think we set our kids up for success in the Black community. One example being like sending our kids to college, and they're not going. They're going for sociology. They're going for something that can. You're going to put yourself in all this debt instead of like preaching to trade schools, talking about entrepreneurship, talking to our kids about investments and about money, because like a lot of people are broke, financially illiterate, and you know, but you just like we just keep going, we just keep going and contribute, and we don't take, and then we at the end of the day we say, well, I did the best that I can. I did the best that I can. Did you really? How did you set your kids up for, to be better? And especially like the older generation, our parents and older, I see a lot of like in the Black community, I see a lot of selfishness. They're all about self. They're all about I'm gonna get me a boat. I'm gonna get me my bike. I went through it, and now you gotta figure it out. And in the Black community, we put our kids out as soon as they turn 18. As soon as you turn 18, you are on the countdown. You are on the countdown. They about to anything. Now they on your head. Oh, what you about to do? And we can't wait to do it because we didn't plan to have these children. And now, mama want to live her life, daddy want to live her life, and you got to figure this shit out. So the cycle just continues. It takes having to, for myself, having to figure out, like, sit back and be like, damn, why is shit like this, man? Why am I going through this? And having to look and find, listen to these self-help, things, that people joke about. Like, this shit saved my life. You know what I mean? These books, Malcolm X, reading the autobiography of Malcolm X, that's what sparked my like, oh damn, he was just like me. He used to mess with white girls, he went to prison, he's still like, oh, he was just like me. And then he changed his, so that's like that's what did it for me, having to find, I had to look and find like a Black man that I could look to, because though like my father took care of me, I didn't learn what it was to be a man. So I was very emotional. I had no self-control, and I was big and strong. So I'm dangerous. And I'm out here. So now all you gotta do is put a battery in my back. And like I said earlier, I'm a crazy nigga. That's what I think it is to be a Black man. So you put a battery in my back and I'm gone. I'm going to attack somebody that look just like me. And it's like, that's where the parenting comes in, where you have to teach your children how to have self-control, how to work through their anger, how to, man, look, this situation comes about. This is how you handle it. Because I never got none of that shit. I learned it from people in prison, bro, that saw me and they was like, oh, you can read? You went to college? Like, oh shit, bro, you ain't supposed to be here. We gonna bring you over here. This is how you're supposed to do it. And like this guy Wawa, man, he's never getting out. Wawa used to come bring me books, man. ADP, man, check this book out. I did this for you because he wanted to see me do better. So it was those guys who are never gonna come home that like raised me in a way. I'm
So yeah, so man, Devin, you said a mouthful. And a lot of what you speak on is, you said, you mentioned cycles and everything of that nature. That's generational trauma. That's passed down from generation to generation. Parents kicking their kids out at 18. Oh, I'm doing that because guess what? My grandma kicked me out at 18, or my dad kicked me out at 18. You see what I'm saying? So I'm gonna kick my kids out at 18, even though they don't have the education on how to live alone, even though they don't have the financial literacy, right? So it happened to me. So guess what? It's going to happen to you too. Generational trauma. It's passing down without even knowing it. But I will say this: parenting actually has a lot to do with mental health. There's no perfect guide or no perfect, book on how to be a parent, right? It's all trial and error. It's all, especially if it was unprepared. I'm gonna just wing it, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, hopefully I adjust, right? So the way specifically in the Black community, the way, and mind you, I've worked with families, I work with, in particular, Black families, and I see, the thinking of parents with their kids when their kids come to me, and when they come to me as a family, right? It all surrounds about a lack of education surrounding mental health. They have no knowledge. Why? Mom came to me saying, he too young to be depressed. He can't be depressed. He's too young to have anxiety. He don't even know what that is. You see what I'm saying? So that happened to mom. I asked mom, can she meet with me afterwards to talk about her history? Mom has you know, her own family's, struggles and problems that were passed to her. She's been living with anxiety. Then she was, showing the symptoms and everything, but she didn't know what it was. She was showing symptoms of being depressed, but she didn't know what it was. So imagine that, and then you having a child, and your child coming to you trying to be open, and you shut them out because you don't know, right? And then that just goes from cycle to cycle. It's a continuous cycle. So parenting actually has a lot to do with how the youth are impacted, especially when it comes to mental health issues. Um, we have a lot of parents who live through their kids. They live vicariously through their kids. Dad didn't make it in the NBA or the NFL. So guess what? I'm gonna have my first boy, and I'm gonna push you, and I'm gonna push you, and you can't be weak. You can't be a crybaby. I'm gonna drill you because I didn't make it, but I want you to make it. Do you know the weight that little boy has now on his shoulder? Right? If the weight of being a failure, if it doesn't happen, the weight of the insecurities of being rejected by his own dad, of because he feels as if he's going to let his dad down. Start of mental health issues, start of some type of mental health problems or mental health ailments. We actually see this a lot in the LGBT community, in the Black community, right? Kids, they come out to their family, and family is supposed to be somebody you can trust. Family is supposed to be somebody you can go to vent to, and able to have that healthy communication, which a lot of Black people do not have good healthy communication skills. They shut everything out. Instead, if a child go to their parents and say, mom, dad, I'm gay or I'm something. Oh, not in my house. That is not happening in my house. So you can either pack your bags and go, or you can switch it up. Boom. Like look what just happened there, right? That kid can't even go to his own family to, talk about, his sexual identity or his gender identity, because he just got shut out. He just got kicked out because he can't change who he's attracted to or anything of that nature. Now he has nobody to go to, and now he's out on the street. He or she is out on the street, homeless, tricking for a next house to live or doing anything for their next meal. You know what I'm saying? Meeting up with random people, and then that child or whoever can be, and it happens with our girls too. And the funny thing about it, it happens with the men too. Like the cisgender heterosexual little boys, it happens with them too. If they feel as if they're a failure and they run away, they're out doing the same thing. And it's just, man, it just have a negative impact on the African American community. That's why, in turn, I wish there was a guide on how to be a perfect parent, but there is no perfect parent, right? It's all trial and error, and even the parent experts, and like, so me personally, I don't have kids, so I'm not speaking from a father standpoint or anything of nature. I'm specifically speaking from a counselor standpoint, somebody who knows mental health, somebody who's qualified in mental health. If it had and if they just had a little bit of knowledge on or psychoeducation on mental health issues and how each step throughout their childhood development can impact them later on in life, then I think it will turn out better. You know what I'm saying? They can stop that if they have that insight or in that better judgment. They can stop that trauma or the negative elements in its track, and it won't go further than that. That cycle has now stopped. That chain has now been broken. So whoa, that was a mouthful, but yeah.
Yeah, you just triggered something because you're talking about like sexuality. I know growing up, I was told from rap music, I'm supposed to be smashing all the girls. I ain't gonna lie. I was a kid, like I'm talking about little. I'm like 7, 8, 9. I'm like, and I didn't know what sex was, but I know I wanted it. So when we get to the age like I'll say 13, 14 in high school, I was about 6 feet. I didn't really grow much since I'm still 6 feet, but I was 6 feet going into high school. 175, athletic. I got put on varsity just off of that. I sucked, but they just thought I was legit. But they found out I sucked, so I went back to JV. But my point is, y'all both know me on a personal level. I consider myself an intellectual dude, so I didn't know how to put together, dang, how do I get all these girls with who I am as a man? Because I know I'm more intellectual. Like I was trying to get girls with poetry. I'm looking back at 32, thinking like, all I had to do was walk up and be like, and I was good. But I'm sitting there, how can I treat you, my dear? So that conflict as a youth, like, not saying parents did me wrong or right. I just thought, shoot, this is what because my parents didn't like put me in front of TV and be like, learn. It's just that my perception was all my friends was on it. We all talk, man, I'm a smash. We was all virgins at the time saying this. And it's like, man, I want to smash her. And I'm hoping to say this because now I know better, because now I'm like, what did that really get me? Like going to college at Cookman, I wasn't really on the scene like that. Like a lot of girls thought I was out here, like I wasn't. But looking back, it's like I felt like I was doing something wrong because I was told, hey, this is what we do. But I guess I'm kind of getting away from the parenting side. So let's move forward because I know we got to take 2 more slides and we'll be done. Matter of fact, I'm going to go to this one with the Black Men Safe Space event, only because it kind of segues what I was saying. Then we'll go back to celebrity one to finish off. So do Black men have a safe space to vent their problems? Is there more of a burden on their shoulders? And I guess segueing for what I was just saying, that's just one part of my burden because I'm thinking from a sexual standpoint, I'm not a man if I ain't getting every girl that walk by me. But going with that, I put just one fact that said the stigma of mental health is way more prominent with Black men than it is women. So saying that if a Black person is going to be more open to mental health awareness, it's probably going to be a woman. So these little phrases I'm going to say, y'all probably heard them, and anyone watching, you may have heard them. And this is more dictated to our men. We didn't have any female this time around, so we'll definitely get the female voices next time. But have you ever heard these, you guys or anyone watching? Man up. Oh, you'll be all right. And this is in reference to venting or being vulnerable with your feelings. Man up. You'll be all right. Oh, it's not that serious. Oh, you're strong enough to get through this. And while most of those aren't negative replies or rebuttals, you can understand how you guys will, when we talk, you'll understand and explain how it makes you feel. And the other one I put specifically more towards attitudes toward men on personal social media, but I really meant like, say even the dating sphere, like, oh, men don't feel like women do, or men are supposed to take all the responsibility. So it sets a tone like, before I even date you, you done told me that, one, I don't feel like you because you're a woman. So I can, even if I'm open, I just went, zoop, don't tell her nothing. And then the other one, oh, no matter what, you could be independent, strong, all that, but I take everything emotionally, physically, monetarily. Someone breaking the house, I gotta go down there and handle it. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm big on that, but at the same time, it's like I'm expecting for that. And then you got these disparities of if you're independent, and I'm not gonna get into that because you know with Kevin Samuels all that, the world going crazy. But you get my point. Like Devin said, we walk with this trauma of like I'm already expected to do all this, and that was talking about more so the white versus black world. But just in our own world, women versus men, we got to go through this. So, who wants to take it? I guess Devin, it's your turn to start off.
Well, you forgot the classic who hurt you. That's a good one. But I'll say in the I don't think there's an actual space that we as black men have to vent to each other. Maybe barbershop, I guess. You know, that's the closest thing I think we have to like therapy. But like as far as having a group and being like, black man, I'm going through this. I think that would be ideal, but really we as black men, I think we just carry that burden on our shoulders. Never let them see you sweat. That's a mentality I think we have to have. Because if you're perceived as weak, if you're perceived as any of these things, then people might not be able to secure that deal. And being an entrepreneur, and working for yourself, like you really can't have those days where you have to be able to produce every day. You're not allowed to really, even though everybody has those down days, but for me, where I've been, I have like two of my brothers that I speak to on a daily, and I bounce things off of them, they bounce stuff off of me, and that's kind of like my thing. As far as speaking to a woman about my issues, I did that before, and that's the worst thing I think you can do as a man, because like at the beginning it's like, oh yeah, I'm with you, but then like if shit goes south, they switch up.
Do you think it should be like that? Do you think it should be able to? Not saying you would or wouldn't, but you should be able to. Like, I shouldn't feel scared to tell my significant other how I really feel without feeling like I'm getting judged or betrayed or something, right? It shouldn't be like that, right? I'm just asking, like, generally.
I think men should just speak with men, about men issues. And then, because like honestly, like that's why women they're looking for a leader, they're looking for someone strong. So like I don't want to myself, I don't want to come to my woman with like something that like I was down. I'd rather come to my home with, damn, bro, like, no, this shit happened, and then we go through it, and then I just keep moving because that's that never let me see you sweat mentality. So that's what I've been taught. And should it be like that? I think especially my partner, I would like to be able to confide in her and confide and give her my deepest, darkest, but like I don't have a wife and I don't have a girl, and that's it.
All right. What's your thoughts, Marcus?
So, I think men do not have a safe space but in turn out, I think we put that on ourselves, right? I think we're afraid to talk to anybody, whether it's a professional or a friend. We're afraid to be vulnerable, right? Because as black men, we have to be strong. And me venting or becoming emotional in front of my homeboys, I'm salt as weak. Or me venting to a woman, I'm scared that she's gonna take that against me and use it against me later on down the line, you know. And I do not think it should be like that. Especially if it's your paramour or your significant other. I think you should be able to confide in them no matter what. If y'all dating, when it comes to dating, the overall goal hopefully is to, become enmeshed and get, married, eventually or later on down the line, right? So if you're not, why are you dating them? But I just think you should be able to talk to your significant other with confidence that, you know, they don't use it against you later on down the line, or they don't throw it back in your face, or they don't use some of these terms. Man up, you'll be all right. It's not that serious, because why should they be able to downplay your experiences? You see what I'm saying? Don't downplay my experiences, because you haven't lived through my experiences. You might have similarities, but you haven't lived through exactly what I lived through. I think Black men also need to take initiative to reach out, and seek help, or seek that one homeboy that you can let it all out to, that one person without the stigma of appearing less than or being weak or something of that nature. The first stigma of mental health issues are more prominent in Black men. That's absolutely true. Black men do not seek therapy. Is they play on the stereotype that it makes them mentally weak. Black men need to be strong. Black men need to be the protectors. Black men need to be the leaders. So seeking help from other places, you're saw as a beta, and that goes into a whole nother different conversation when it talks about the alpha male and the beta male. I'm not going to get to that. You know what I'm saying? Um, but they seeking out help does not mean you're a beta male, does not mean you're less than the alpha male. You can still be a lead. First and foremost, people got to understand you have to follow before you can lead, right? You have to learn the tricks of the trade before you can take that and put your own experience to it and change it up how you want to change it up, and then give it back. You see what I'm saying? So I believe Black men need to take that initiative, and then first of all, stop telling your kids that, or your sons, that don't show no emotions. Nah, man, show that emotion. You know what I'm saying? But let it be reasonable. Let them not cry about like little petty stuff or anything like that. But if they have a real reason to cry, let them cry. You know what I'm saying? If you feeling less than, go talk to somebody. Go seek that professional help, because therapy is going to work. Therapy works no matter how you look at it. Therapy works, and I'm not just saying that because I am a therapist. I had received therapy back in my days, and it worked for me. You see what I'm saying? So therapy do work. So I just think men need to take that initiative in order to seek help and seek the safe places, or because not every place is safe. Sometimes it can be uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable talking about mental health. Seek those safe places like men support groups and stuff of that nature, where you can go vent and see that your lived experience, other people have lived something similar to that. So that's my 2 cents.
All right, good stuff. So this last topic, we skipped over, but we'll go to it. So, do you believe that celebrities promoting the importance of mental health in the Black community does more harm than good? And I really thought about how I phrase it after I put it, and like I don't like how I phrase it because I feel it does help. But when I say more harm than good, what I'm really saying is, are they portraying in the right light? Because I have a picture of Charlemagne and Taraji, who are huge. Both have millions of followers on social medias. They have big platforms on TV, movies. So obviously, them talking about it is good. But the reason I say does it do more harm is because when they colloquialize terms, like I know, Mark, you had to hear this a million times. Oh, I'm so bipolar, or I'm so ADHD just because you lost your watch. Oh, where's my watch? I'm so ADHD. Nah, and I think this goes back to what you said earlier, and I say this all the time to people, is intensity and duration. Because everyone gets sad, everyone forgets. Everyone has a mood swing, but intensity, how much did it affect your day? Did it just make you late for work, or did you not go out for 8 days? In duration, was that just a week after a funeral? That makes sense. Or was it like 8 months? Like, people gotta look at that. So that's why I personally think it may do some harm. I'm not saying it's bad. Obviously, I want people to talk, but I'll use an example and I'll let you guys go on your points. Is we had someone in our community, a former teammate friend of mine, actually, I know him decently. He had an incident where I don't even say how to say this. It's hard to even say this. He killed his wife and killed himself. This happened right here in Deerfield Beach, Florida. And the whole community was shook because he was a great guy. We all knew him, stand out, upset, man. And everyone was preaching, we got to talk to each other. Mental health, mental health, mental health, mental health. And I'm not trying to sound petty on the actual thing we're doing, but you know how many people those are on this right now? So I'll leave it at that. But it's like, it kind of makes it seem like they're doing something big, which they are, but does it go past what they're just talking on face value? Nah, Marcus, you start as well.
I first want to start out and say mental health is not a new fad, y'all. It's not for popularity. It's not for anything of that nature. You can ask anybody with a serious psychiatric mental health disorder. Mental health is serious. You see what I'm saying? Although I do respect Charlamagne and Taraji for bringing that the celebrity insight to mental health disparities and anything. I think that individuals, I can speak for me personally as a licensed mental health counselor. The same thing they've been preaching, I've been preaching since I graduated with my master's back in 2015. Right. And some of these people are not, and some of the people I preached it to or I presented it on, they took it for granted. They took everything I said for granted as a professional, right? So now, because a celebrity said something, now it's mental health, da 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 da. And I'm like, well, dang, I said that. While I appreciate them for allowing that, but you blatantly, like some people blatantly negate the mental health professionals when we've been preaching that. We've been preaching psychoeducation and reading up on mental illnesses and those disorders and everything like that. And the reason why I say it's not a fad, because they take, and like Nick said, they take turns. Oh, I'm bipolar, or oh, I'm antisocial. But literally in reality, you don't even know that antisocial really don't mean antisocial, right? Antisocial, like the personality disorder, is completely different than being social in social groups and things of that nature. There's social anxiety disorder and avoidant personality disorder, and there's antisocial, where they don't have no regard to the rules and regulations. They're criminals, right? That's so when somebody be like, "Oh, I'm antisocial person," I'm antisocial. No, antisocial doesn't mean antisocial, right? Um,
Boy, no, it's the
or or I'm bipolar. So what does that really mean to you? What is your intensity and duration? Like Nick said, what is the intensity and duration? It's not, oh, I'm sad 1 second and excited 1 second. That's not what bipolar is. That is not what that is. Are you depressed for days at a time, like preventing all your other functioning levels? Are you manic, because it's depression and mania. That's what deciphers, bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. Are you manic? Are you spending all your money? Are you going on shopping sprees and buying things that you can't afford? Is your mind currently racing and you're doing one thing or another? Are you selling all your possessive items and things of that nature? So it's not, and I just think the celebrities are doing a good job, but they're not taking that extra time out to educate. You see what I'm saying? They're not taking that extra time out to educate. Now they're bringing that awareness, because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. They're bringing that awareness, but they're not taking that extra step as of right now, as of currently right now. I'm not sure what they got going on for the future and everything of that nature. I know somebody else that went to cooking with us, Dr. Jeff Roker. He's been working with, I think he's been working with Taraji. He's been getting flown out, flown out and things of that nature to do some mental health stuff with Taraji. I know, but so I don't know what they have going on for the future. But I just think they need to take that extra initiative to, if they're going to use their platform to bring awareness to it, they need to not only bring that little awareness they're doing, but bringing, more in-depth, psychoeducation or bibliography, like perfect books to read on mental health or something of that nature. So that's
say
my
with Jeff, I work with Jeff actually, his foundation, How We See It, and I've done an event with him a few weeks ago where we go to schools, well now Zoom, and we call it hip hop therapy, where the format is like I'll talk about like the general aspects, kind of like what we're talking about now, but more general, and we'll give them that psychoeducation and let them know, okay, this is what it is, so they know the actual statistics, details, but at a level where they can, their kids, they're 16-year-old, but they get that. Then we do like a rap song where they got to come up with actual, like get a beat, maybe a like a popping hot song right now, and they'll make a song for mental health. So just been doing that, and I've joined this team a few months ago, and I've been helping now. I used to be a music back in my day, but so he's doing that. So I just a shameless plug for him and How We See It, that organization. So granted, he's that's his thing, but I don't know if Taraji and them are doing that themselves though. I don't know. But yeah, Devin, what's up?
Um, no, but this one, if I'm honest, bro, like if I'm honest, in my world, I don't see any I don't see it. Um, and maybe that's just like the artists that I listen to and all that. But But like, I saw Kid Cudi wearing a dress talking about suicide or something like that. I saw, I think Logic, the rapper, he has like a song about something with mental health. But
My hotline.
most of the artists are demons and thoughts, bro, and they're not talking about mental health and trying to. So I don't know about Charlemagne or Taraji. I don't know. I'm not
Fair enough, fair enough. Okay, well, we'll wrap it up. So the last slide was just basically, I won't even say how do you promote the culture of mental health. I'll just say you each go one at a time, say any final words. Doesn't necessarily have to be had that for time's sake. Just any final words to leave us with your experience, your life, make it about a minute or so, and we'll wrap this thing up. So who up?
I can start. So as a mental health professional, y'all know I advocate for social justice, cultural diversity, all of that nature, mental health in general. Um, if you feeling like you can't bear, anything, call your local 211. There are resources. There are mental. That's a link for your whatever area you in for mental health resources. I know a lot of counties they have a mobile crisis response team if you're feeling suicidal or homicidal. There are a plethora of Facebook groups where you can reach out and find mental health practitioners. As a community, I think we all need to take our mental health seriously, and don't downplay it, because it's similar to like any other silent killer, man. It's like stress is a silent killer. High blood pressure is a silent killer. Things of that nature. I know we tend to focus on our physical health and things of that nature. I think it's time we take our emotional health and our mental health the same as we take those. So reach out. If you have general questions, you can potentially reach out to me as well. I have private practice Infinity Counseling and Wellness Center in the state of Florida. So yeah, let's take our mental health seriously.
All right, Devin.
I definitely agree. I agree and piggyback off Marcus. We do need to take accountability as Black men and go if you need some help. Go get some help, man. Like we don't need to feel ashamed for because we all go through shit. We all, especially us living in the United States of America, we all feeling the same things, but we just don't speak about it. So if you don't know, you don't know this brother is going through the same exact experience, right? So I think it does it makes you stronger to be able to say like, man, I'm feeling like this. I need some help. To recognize that you're going through some shit and go talk to your brother. Go speak to someone like Marcus. You know what I mean? I'm gonna be because I'm actually working extra so that I can afford to have someone that I can speak to. And I think that that's something that we should do as men. Like shit, go get that extra job, get that extra side hustle because it's just like the gym membership. We need to work on our mental health just like we work on our physical health, just like all of that. So I think important brothers like Marcus and Nick are extremely important in our community. We need more. We need more. We need more. We need more. We need to destroy the emotional man. We need to be able to work through things logically, and it takes brothers like this with a platform that I hope this blows up to the biggest thing. To speak about this. And I'm thankful that you called me to be on here this morning. Yeah.
Thank both of y'all. Break. This was an hour, but it seemed like we talked for like a day, and that's good. We got so much information, so I'll wrap it up. Like I say, thank you again. I'll post this on YouTube, and obviously so usually I put clips of these on my Instagram, but I feel I'm gonna put a lot of these throughout the week because this was probably not to sound biased. All mental health matters, of course, but since this hits home for us, I'm definitely going because there's a lot of people need to hear this. So I'll end it with this note: mental health like I said, it's important. I'm gonna keep beating. We've pretty much beaten the dead horse, but we're gonna keep beating it.
Yeah.
The same way you want to get a flat stomach, a nice muscles or whatever. And I'm glad people are getting physically healthy, obviously, but this is what leads the body. And I want people to just understand that life is dynamic. You're going to have times where it sucks. Y'all follow me, y'all know sugarcoat don't do nothing for you but give you diabetes, right? So you got to understand there's going to be down times, but just like Devin Mark said, there's no shame of admitting it, because there's 9 out of 10, there's someone right next to you in your circle that's going through the same thing or similar, but they scared too. So I'm big on saying, hey, the negatives don't make you weak. So I'm gonna leave with this quote I like to use at the end of some of my talks I do. Life is like a battery, right? You need a negative and a positive to have power. And I'm gonna leave with that. So thank y'all tuning in. Get your mind right. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording.